here we have a PowerPoint. I'm going to see if I can actually open one. I'm hoping that most people are familiar with PowerPoint enough to kind of create one. There we go. Let's try. So again, like you have to suffer with crazy PowerPoints I've made. So sorry about your luck there. So here's a PowerPoint. I just want to be able to add some video to some audio as a way to share this PowerPoint with my students. One of the things we want to remember as we're building our PowerPoints is that the students who are using technology like a phone, right, they're not going to be able, so I don't want to put I don't want to do the essay lecture notes, right? I don't want to put all my notes up here because the students won't be able to see them if they're viewing on their phone. So we need to kind of think about some of those pieces for students, depending on how they view, right? Like I can't predict how all of them will be viewing your presentation. The other thing that's kind of an interesting note is that if you use the online version, the ability to do the annotation to add in the voiceover doesn't work. So it only works in the desktop version of PowerPoint. So kind of an interesting little balance there. So in my version of PowerPoint, I'm going to go to Insert. So there's a kind of a top menu in PowerPoint with different little tools. I'm going to go to Insert to add in my voiceover. Way on the right, there is the option to add media. So way on the right, it says media. Now here are a couple considerations. If your computer has a built-in audio capture device, then it will, like a microphone, you can use the built-in microphone, that's okay. We also have little USB microphones that you can borrow if you need. So I'm going to just click this button and say, I have two options. One is audio on my PC. It says you could just have an audio file that's just hanging around. So if you maybe don't have a great computer and you just like, how am I going to do this? But you happen to have one of these fancy dancy, I don't have it with me, but these little devices that people carry around. They're fairly small, fit in your pocket, have lots of apps on them. You can download a voice recording app, right, onto your phone. They tend to be free, right? Try them out. Share the audio to your computer, and then you can grab that little audio file by sharing your device files. And if that's something people want to kind of go over, I'd have to go back and find my phone, which might be in the office. But that is possible to just grab an audio file, right? To create one with another tool that you already have, share it with your computer. So right, we're being creative. We're thinking about like, what are the multiple ways? Because it's not just one path, right? We are all also in that same weird boat of we don't all have the same tools. So here's a record audio. I'm just going to click this button right here. It just says recorded sound, right? It's just like, oh, this is your recorded sound. So I'm going to click this button right here, and I have this added in. So hi, this is my PowerPoint presentation about my game review. It's actually, this is an activity that students would do in my pretend class that I'm making for the class I'm taking. The students will be playing different games, and then they're going to reflect on how the games kind of apply to different teaching and learning opportunities for students. So they might realize that a particular, like a simulation might fit in well with history, and how that maybe makes students feel engaged, right? So those are kind of the things that we would be looking at, and how they're going to share that information. So by pressing the little button right here, the little stop. So generally in the world, the square set means stop. You can pause, right? You're stopping the recording. You can decide, you can listen to it. Now I'm going to tell you, I can play it. It's going to play through this computer. It's not going to be super loud. So just as a FYI, you're going to be like, this is kind of boring. But you could play back and be like, oh, hey, this is great. I sounded great. Did the thing that I wanted to do. Or you could be like, ooh, I sounded stupid. I want to do it again, right? Then you could do cancel. You could say, okay, wait, I need to try again. So once I'm happy, I click OK. You'll notice this little icon right here pops up on my screen. So we know that it worked. But here's the thing. It's really annoying. I'm going to actually just minimize this puppy just a little bit so we can see some cooler things. So here's this little icon, right? I just moved it to the side. But there are actually kind of some fun things we can do with this. So if I click this icon, by clicking the icon, PowerPoint kind of knows. It's like, oh, hey, you want to do something with this icon, and it opens some submenus. So right here it says format and playback. Those have to do specifically with playback of this icon. So by clicking on this little playback button right here, I can adjust some of the settings that work with this very specific audio recording. So I can adjust I can trim it. So that means I could cut it down if I was like, oh, you know what, most of it was good, but maybe I just need to like trim off the end because the dog barked at the beginning and I just left that in because I knew I could trim it, right? Or at the very end, my husband yelled at me when I was talking and I was like, honey, stop talking right now. I'm recording PowerPoint. And I was just like, ugh. So I cut that part out, right? So you can adjust that. You can fade in. So you can add a little fade to make it fancy. Just fades the audio in. It's a little effect. You can adjust the volume a little bit if you need to. Here's the piece if you need to, if you want it to play across multiple slides. So you were like, this audio is super long. I'm telling you all the words all at once. And it's just going to keep going and you're just going to click. In the scenario that we're probably all working in right now, that probably would not be as ideal, right? Because you're hoping, I'm assuming, and we all know that's not always ideal, but I'm assuming that you're going to tell them some information with a slide. They're going to advance to the next slide, learn another thing. So that might not be as ideal, but this is where you would adjust that piece. Or it could be like, you just keep looping the same audio again and again. So again, if you were presenting somewhere, that would be really cool. Don't need that right now. What is pretty spiffy is this start button right here. So it says in click sequence. What you can do is just say start automatically, right? I open the slide, my audio starts, right? They open the slide up, it just starts, blah, blah, blah. Hey, this is my thing, but it's really cool. And then the other thing that I like is this little button right here that says hide during show. This little button that says hide during show, because we just said you're going to play it automatically, right? I just said you're going to play. So you don't need to see this little button. It makes this go away during the show. I just move it because, okay, so the question was, if I'm hiding the icon, why do I move it? And it's because I have OCD. Thanks. So the question is, can they play this slide over again? And the answer is yes, they can go back and it will replay, should replay the audio for them again. It's like, oh, you started this over. I'm going to play the same audio over again. I think the question is if they watch it as a presentation, right? So if I'm watching it not as a PowerPoint presentation, I'm going through it, I can control this audio a little bit more. But if I go through and watch it as a PowerPoint presentation, then it's just going to automatically run. So I don't know if that makes sense to everyone. The question was, can the students kind of control the audio? And so the answer is, if I if I go through the presentation without running it as a actual slideshow, right? So when I go to my PowerPoint and I pop it into slideshow view, this is not going to run the audio because the audio is weird and crazy. This is automatically going to run my audio, right? I can't control it as a student. But as a student, if I just go through the PowerPoint and click on the icon and play, I can adjust. So there are two different ways for the students to go through the PowerPoint. There's not a limitation on the length of the audio. I think there might be a limitation on the length of on any student's ability to sit for any point of time and listen to anything. So if you drone on for hours and hours, I'm just going to flat out tell you, they're probably not going to listen to you. This is me from love, deep down in my heart, telling you they're probably not going to listen to you if you drone on for hours and hours. But there is not a limitation within PowerPoint. The files do tend to get a little bit big, so just keep that in mind. So you want to think about size and just, how long you go on for. Depending on how you post this file, I'm going to assume that for the most part, students are going to probably download the file and they're going to be able to watch that. So the question is about buffering. Is it going to play all right? And I would suggest that you tell your students to download the file, right? So if they're somewhere where they do have limited internet, right? You go hey, go to the wherever it is that you get the internet, download these items. Now you have them on your computer. You can go and watch them and then re-upload them when you have time, but you can download, and then they don't have to worry. We're not worried about buffering, right? Because the download is already there. It's on their computer. So as a student in taking classes myself, I would generally download a PowerPoint with audio to listen to it, just because it makes more sense to me. So the question is about compressing the files, and so the audio files tend to be big. It's all about, I'm not an audio expert. There are definitely audio experts out there in the world. Audio, it's not my thing. I get around, but it's not my strong point. But I do know that some audio formats are bigger file size than other formats, right? And so audio can be pretty big, and I know that I've heard from different people on campus, so it's really great that the files can be kind of big. So there are some ways to kind of compress the audio to just make the files a little bit smaller. It probably is not going to make them a ton smaller, so I just want to throw that out there, but it will do a little bit to kind of clean up your PowerPoint. So once we've completed our PowerPoint here, we've got all of our audio in, right? We've kind of set it up, and that was, it's all set. I got all my little artifacts in there. I'm going to go to File, and by just clicking on File, it brought me to Info. So if by default it doesn't bring you to Info, maybe it brought you to Save, which is not, or somewhere else, click on Info. Here's the option where it says Compress Media, right? So we're just going to kind of think about, it says, do you want to go full HD? Are we sending these videos to Hollywood? I don't think we are. Now, maybe you are. If you're not sending them to Hollywood, we don't need to go full HD. We probably don't even need to go 720p. Maybe, now if you have art stuff, maybe. But at the same point, the standard is probably going to be great for our students, right? All things considered. I would click on the standard, let it do the compression. So the question is about compliance, and we had someone in the room kind of throw probably great suggestion. I've done this it's kind of funny because not everyone thinks about this. Normally, what I would do is the same. I would write what I was going to say in the bottom in the notes. I would write my script, and there are two reasons for that. One is just because I'm going to say otherwise. I'll be like, this is about my game review and about the and so if I write in the notes what I plan to say, I'm a little bit more focused when I do the recording, and it also clears me for ADA. So it's just a great way to give students different ways to access information, right? So not even necessarily like ADA compliance in that sense. Some of it is universal design for learning in the sense that a student who has a lot of distractions at home, right? Like siblings or other people running around and they're trying to kind of focus on their work might be better served by seeing that text than by hearing your audio, just because their life like is in chaos and like they're trying to focus and they don't have that quiet space that they really would prefer to have on campus. So having that text there is a great trick to keep you focused and think about what you're going to tell students, and then also kind of keep you compliant with ADA.